Hello, and welcome to my first podcast. My name is Katie. I am a fiber arts enthusiast and a maker of things. I am also the dyer behind Tea and Trinket yarns, thus the Tea and Trinket podcast. As I said, this is my first podcast. Pardon the nervousness. I'm a little awkward. That's okay. We'll get through it together. This podcast will primarily be about knitting today. I intend to include crochet, spinning, weaving, hiking, and when the weather cools down, snowshoeing, but those will be in future episodes. And as an independent yarn designer, I am going to talk about that a little bit more towards the end of this episode. So to start, let's talk about knitting. Last week now, I started and finished a shawl because I needed a break from my knitting plans. For those of you who know me, I tend to make some pretty extensive plans for myself, challenges, and I had overwhelmed myself with them, so I needed a break. I took a break. Hadn't made a lace shawl in a while. Wanted to make one by Sylvia McFadden, so I made the Love and Darkness shawl. And here it is. So, Love and Darkness, I believe it is in Shawl Joy is the name of the ebook, but it is lovely. It is pretty big, a little bit hard to get all of it in frame. It is going to blow out the camera a little bit because it is very dark purple, so I apologize for camera quality and lighting. I am currently sitting by a window. So it has this beautiful lace pattern all through it and this very thick garter stitch border, and it has a picot bind off for the pattern. The only things that I really changed about this pattern were adding 2 extra rows to the end border and some increases in the garter stitch section so that my points would be pointy. No other reason than that, just preference. The yarn is also a bit lighter weight than the pattern calls for, and by a bit lighter weight I mean half the thickness. This is a sport weight and the pattern calls for an Aran weight. Now the yarn itself, I don't really know much about it. I happened upon this cone of yarn, and according to the label on the inside, I'm not sure if you can see that, but it says that it's Harrisville Designs, 100% pure virgin wool spun in the United States, and for the color it says SH space TWD purple, descriptive. The dye lot is 4754, and it says that it is 228 grams or 8 ounces and 900 yards approximately. I will commonly confuse yarn and yard, both in spoken word and typing, because that's a lot of what I deal with. So I apologize in advance. But yeah, so it's this sport weight tweed. It feels like a Shetland, but it does not specify. I know that Harrisville Designs does a lot in the way of US grown Shetland wool. I'm gonna set that over there for now. So it's this beautiful dark plummy purple, and it has all of these flecks of this like bright turquoise, and it's kind of just like the dark plum is mixed in with a little bit of this kind of almost lilac purple. Again, it's very hard to actually get the colors to show up on camera. Yeah, it's about that, maybe a little bit more of a pinky purple. But yes, first finished object of this show. Exciting things. All the exciting things. Alright, so moving on, I will talk about works in progress. These are things that I've been working on, some of them for a while, others for not very long. The first one I'm going to show you is in a project bag that I won in a giveaway. This is a project bag by the Ginger U, and it is Pokemon inside of socks. Does it get any better? I don't think so. I can't imagine it being any better than that. But like I said, the maker of this project bag is the Ginger U, and that is E-W-E, like the sheep. And she has a shop on Etsy. I have purchased another one of her bags since winning this one because I really enjoy the quality. As for the project that's inside it, let's get to that. This is the Jelly Rolls sock pattern by Mara Catherine Briner. And I have finished the first one minus weaving in ends. I'm sure some of you other crafters out there can relate to that. Almost done, not there yet. But the first one is completely knit, and the main color of the yarn, main color of the sock, is Plymouth Happy Feet 100 Splash. The color is number 101 Crayon, and as far as the raspberry and the very bright aqua turquoise that is coming out very, very blue, just plain old blue. Both of these are the mini skein gumballs from Knitted Wit. They did not come with color names on the labels. But yes, so the colors aren't quite accurate on screen. It's much more of a bright aqua turquoise color for the cuff and the heel. Mara Catherine Briner is one of my favorite designers of sock patterns. Not necessarily socks, though her socks are phenomenal, but her pattern writing is incredible. I have experienced it as a knitting instructor, both for very, very beginner, learn to knit, as well as learn new techniques or just one-on-one improve your knitting skills. And her sock patterns, especially the Rose City Rollers, which is a free pattern, they're just written really well. They're color-coded for the sizes. She has brief explanations for using DPNs as well as 2 circulars or magic loop. She prefers DPNs, I believe, based on how she writes the pattern, but it's easy to convert for the other kinds of knitting. And just a really good introduction, great photographs, very detailed. So highly recommend her patterns. And that's gonna fall off, but that is okay. So the next project I'm working on is the Dennis sock, and the designer is Heather Sebastian. I'm doing mine a little bit differently. I'm doing this toe up instead of top down for my socks, and I'm using the heel from Wendy D. Johnson's toe up socks with gusset and slip stitch heel. And these are them. Well, this. I've only just started the first sock, and it looks silly because it's a ribbed sock, but once stretched out, the ribbing looks really nice. I do like this style of the ribbing. And as you can see, there's the gusset and the heel flap from Wendy D. Johnson's pattern. I am a magic looper, as you can see. That is my preferred method for knitting socks. I do use the 9-inch circulars sometimes. I have kind of gotten away from using double point needles because I was really into Haya sharps for a while and I kept stabbing myself. Yeah. I I like the use of my I like the use of my hands. So I moved on to less pointed needles, still kind of sharp. These are the Chowgu interchangeables in the minis. I like the mini cable because it's very thin and very flexible. But yeah, let's get back to the actual sock itself. This has been a really easy pattern to just pick up and go, and I have been enjoying it. Like I mentioned, I have a yarn. The yarn that I'm using for this project, I believe the language is German, even though the yarn is from Switzerland, and it's Freilich Wolle. I am not the best at German pronunciation, and I apologize for butchering that. But it's the Maxi Ringo, and the color is 7709. This is a discontinued yarn, and I am very sad for that because I'm really enjoying working on these. I have the full skein of the second skein for these socks. So they come in 50 gram put-ups with reinforcement thread, and I had exactly enough reinforcement thread for the toe and the heels. These socks are going to be used for hiking. I started knitting socks in 2017, the very beginning of 2017, and since then, of course, I have knit socks for other people, namely my dad. My dad probably appreciates my sock knitting more than I do, and he is the only one. He wears his socks all the time, and he takes pretty good care of them. I got really jealous though because he wears his socks all the time, including hiking. So he's been wearing his hand knit socks hiking, and he hasn't been getting blisters, and he's had nice and comfortable feet, and they're wearing really well, and they're a lot more comfortable. So the person who knits the socks, it should be a rule. They should have their own hand knit socks too. So these ones are going to be my hiking socks once I get them finished and off of the needles, which I hope is soon. I am currently in a sock finishing kick right now. I don't have any other works in progress really to show today because I've been trying just to focus on getting socks done so that I can get my sock needles back and start more socks. A little bit of a problem, just a little bit. That is not a good place for that. That's going on the floor now. Alright, final works in progress. I don't really count as a works in progress in the same sense as I do the socks. So with my other works in progress, they kind of have a defined parameter for when they are finished. They'll be done once the socks are done. Once both socks in the pair are done, the project will be done. Great, awesome, finished project. This is a scrap blanket, and I know that a lot of people have very mixed feelings about scrap yarn blankets. Some people love them, some people hate them, some people started out loving them and then started hating them when they weren't getting done. I really enjoy mine. It's not very big. It's not very big at all. It is only wide enough to just kind of be laying on top of my lap. Just hips to knees and then across my thighs. And that's how big it is right now, but I'm really enjoying it. I've been working on it for quite a while, but still. I fall into the category of the crazy people who keep going with theirs. For now. We'll see how that goes later. I'll try to fit all of this into frame so that you can see all of it, but I might need to wiggle it around a little bit. So this is where I started, and scooting back as far as I can. Yeah, so the ones that are fully in frame I have started and finished before the beginning of September, and then these few over here are the ones that I started in the month of September. Yeah, I got a little bit obsessed in the past 15 days. I, again, had started working on these huge fantastical plans for getting things done. Didn't happen, needed to take a break. Knit squares. Squares are easy. Squares are a good break. I'm particularly fond of this one. This is the exhaust skein from my first batch of hand-dyed yarn for my business. So in trying to use up all of my materials that I have at my disposal, I try to use up all of the dye in the dye bath. And this was from a skein that just absorbed all of the other dyes from all of the other skeins that I had dyed. And I really like it. I am hoping to be able to make a very similar colorway for the shop. This one was one of a kind. I kept it for myself. I made a pair of Rose City rollers out of them. But yeah, scrap blanket. I am hoping to have a little bit more of that done by the next time I record, but I might have a different scrap blanket project every time I record because that's how I roll. Alright, so those are the projects that I have been working on most recently. I'm sure I have others, but just wanted to keep it kind of simple for the first episode. And yes, I feel like I'm shrinking, so sorry. Camera angle is another thing that's going to be worked on in later episodes. For now, let's move on to tea and trinket yarns. So I started dyeing yarn professionally about 2 years ago, a little bit more than that. It's not a very large enterprise at the moment, but I enjoy it and other people enjoy looking at it, so I'm gonna keep going with that. If you are interested in looking at my yarns, maybe even purchasing some of them, you can find them at etsy.com/shop/tea and trinket yarns. That's yarns with an S at the end. It's all one word. All 4 of those separate words that make the single word are capitalized. And you can find me on Instagram as Tea and Trinket, which has a link to the shop in the description as well. So as for what's in the shop right now, all of what's in there is on my compass sock base, and this is my new base. I have another one called Nest sock, and the Nest sock is a 75-25 superwash merino nylon blend, very standard, light fingering weight for socks. Very popular, in a lot of use by a lot of different independent dyers. The compass sock is a little bit harder wearing. This was also kind of inspired by wanting to make a little bit more durable socks, like for hiking or just going and exploring your local neighborhood or whatever. Just that's kind of what inspired it, me purchasing this base in order to dye it. So it is 100% Blue Face Leicester. It's a superwash yarn, 4-ply sock weight, and it runs in put-ups of 100 grams at 438 yards and 401 meters. I keep having to check my notes. I'll get better about that. So I have 8 colors in the shop right now, and here they are. So This one is Forest Floor. I have 4 of them in the shop. It has this awesome like mossy green and a little bit of lighter greens plus some lighter mushroom browns kind of mixed in there in a few places. There, right about here is a little bit more color accurate towards the center and my left hand. Natural light, sometimes you gotta make it work. Better photographs of this are on my Etsy shop. And like I said, I have 4 of these in the shop, and I really love this color. I am a big fan of moss green. You will probably find that out pretty quickly. Alright, so this one is Twilight Hydrangea, and it's got that beautiful hydrangea blue. And it has these lovely kind of mauvey purples and like kind of a rosy pink in there, and just little bits of kind of like a muted grayish cream where the dye didn't strike as hard. So Twilight Hydrangea. And this one is called Reef Me Here. And this one has this really bright aqua, and then on this side it has this kind of oceany blue color, and they fade into each other. And just a beautiful tonal yarn. Oh, and there are 3 Twilight Hydrangeas in the shop, and there are 4 Reef Me Here. This next one is called First Frost. This also has 4 in the shop. Yeah, note says 4. I believe the notes. I wrote them myself. So this is First Frost, and it's got that frosty blue in there with the dark, cool blue speckles just lightly thrown in there, and this very just kind of an icy green tone, kind of like the grass in the morning with the frost covering over it. So this is First Frost. This one is called Let's Go Adventuring. Adventuring like the stone. It doesn't have a D in it, but my pronunciation is not the best. So this one has this beautiful aventurine green with some kind of like a pistachio green and a dark bluey sage color. And it also has these brown speckles, kind of a really dark, almost sooty kind of brown, as well as some brighter red-brown tones. Someone's car is having issues. We will forgive it. And the next color that I have, and Let's Go Adventuring has 3 skeins in the shop. This next color is called Worn Velvet. It also has 3 skeins in the shop. So it's this lovely kind of dark purpley mauve again, with little bits of a kind of a rosy peachy pink in there, and that creamy gray tone again that you get from the purple in the undyed yarn areas. Very tonal. Alright, and this one is called Maybe Henry, and it is this very tonal baby blue kind of tone. And I have 2 of these in the shop. I am currently finishing up a baby sweater for a friend of mine out of one of these. The colorway is actually named after one of the names that she has been thinking about for her baby. Alright, and the last one with 4 skeins in the shop is Strawberry Delight. So it's got this bright red strawberry color with the soft, almost bubblegum pink areas that are kind of like the insides of the strawberry slices. So this one got the naming inspiration from my mom. So my mom is not really a cook or a baker or kitchen inclined. She makes a really good salad and she makes a really good salad. But a few summers before I moved out for college, she wanted to make a dessert and found a recipe that looked like it was going to be good. And she refers to it as Strawberry Delight, like the name for the yarn. And the recipe is basically crumbled graham cracker crust at the bottom with a layer of vanilla pudding in the center and then a thick layer of sliced strawberries over the top, chilled in the refrigerator. Very simple but very delicious. And I have a lot of good memories of eating that during the summer before moving out. So, alright, so that's all I have to show you today. Thank you for watching my first episode and forgiving me for the bumps and for my phone deciding to tell me I have a text message right at the very end. I hope you enjoyed this. My plan is to do 2 episodes a month, so hopefully I'll see you again in 2 weeks. Thank you very much again for stopping by and have a lovely day.